Welcome, I'm Catherine Hadro, and this is EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Pro-life in a pandemic. Pro-life leaders get creative in how they advance their mission amidst the coronavirus. We speak with the March for Life and the Susan B. Anthony list to hear how. A call for ethics. U.S. bishops urge the FDA to not create a COVID-19 vaccine with a connection to abortion. Archbishop Naumann, the U.S. Bishop's pro-life chair, tells us more. And
it's about having a beautiful, wonderful life, that every life is a gift.
We speak with Katie Shaw, a woman who fights for the rights of the unborn and for people with Down syndrome. Pro-life groups have been forced to get creative in recent weeks to continue their life-affirming work in the midst of a pandemic. From canceled canvassing efforts to marches to fundraising dinners, the pro-life push has now gone virtual. During this truly unprecedented time, we're seeing pro-life groups having to scrap their best laid-out 2020 plans, pivot, and launch new innovative programs to advance their life-affirming missions. For example, Heartbeat International transformed their major conference to a virtual conference. The Sisters of Life Benefit Gala became a virtual gala. And another COVID-19 response we've seen is now the March for Life is educating pro-lifers on how to lobby lawmakers from social media. To discuss this unique time in the pro-life movement, we are joined now by Jeanne Mancini. Jeanne is the president of the March for Life Education and Defense Fund, and she joins us now via Skype. Jeanne, thanks for being here. As a pro-life leader, how has the coronavirus pandemic impacted your day-to-day work at the March for Life?
Well, thanks for having me, Catherine. And, it's been very interesting. In a lot of ways, it hasn't impacted us that much. I mean, we're still working very much towards the same mission of making abortion unthinkable, but it's impacted how we are approaching that. So some of the state marches that we had planned for, well, one for April and one for May, we've postponed right now. So that was the Connecticut March for Life, and then the Pennsylvania March for Life have been postponed. We'll also be postponing a California march that was planned in Sacramento in June. And in their place, in the moment, we're doing some online lobbying and advocacy events. So people can, get online, check out a webinar, and learn how to interact with their state legislators, even as they're under quarantine. So that's one thing that we're doing. Another thing that we're doing is just taking advantage of the fact that while everyone's home, there's a lot of mom and dads that are homeschooling now that hadn't and are looking for good resources. So we also have developed some really good advocacy online resources. If you go to our website, marchforlife.org, you'll see it pops up right away, different advocacy efforts and different resources that you can use during this COVID-19 quarantine. And then we're doing some really fun, creative things too. And if you're interested, I can tell you about that as well on the lighter side.
Yes, I'd love to hear more. I saw some very innovative virtual ideas, including movie nights. How are you doing that?
So one of our wonderful staff people, Anne-Claire Liebel, developed this idea of Friday night movie nights. And it was the very first night, the very first Friday night that we were in quarantine that we started these. And so we've been working with Jason Jones particularly. And each Friday night we'll show another pro-life movie. We started with like really short pictures, 15 or half an hour time slot. So not long movies, but we've done some longer ones as well. One of my favorites, and I highly recommend people can still see it on our Facebook page, is a documentary about Unplanned. It's about a half an hour long, and in some ways I think it's even more powerful than the movie itself. It's just incredible. Last I checked, we had well over 20,000 views of that documentary. This Friday night, we're showing a movie that's beautiful. I would say it's PG-13, and it's particularly geared towards middle schoolers, and it's called Because of Grazia. And it's a story of a high school student who has an unplanned pregnancy and how she handles it. So that's another great resource. Moms and dads can watch this with their children and process it and talk through it. So So our Friday night movie nights have been a lot of fun. We've also been doing a lecture series online, depending on sort of what's going on. So on National Doctor Appreciation Day, we had Dr. Christina Francis from the Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs. We also had Abby Johnson that same day just to talk a little bit about some of the abortion advocacy efforts, sort of as we're facing this national pandemic and what we can do about it. We've had other great guests as well. Anything from Support After Abortion, a new group that's working on supporting women who regret their abortions, as well as how to engage young people in online advocacy, et cetera. So we've had a lot of fun and a lot of success with these online events.
That's great. And Jeanne, looking forward, we're seeing other pro-life marches, like the scheduled March for Life Canada, transition and become a virtual march. I know we are still a long way out until January 2021, but has the March for Life started making any contingency plans?
Well, I was just emailing this morning with our National Park Service point of contact, but we're very much hoping to march in January. And I would say, the different programs that I just highlighted is one aspect of what we've been doing under quarantine. But I'm so proud of our small March for Life team. We've been working so hard also just on some deeper strategic work. And it's my belief that this next March is going to be the most powerful ever because of some of the work that we've been able to do in this quieter time.
Well, as always, we're grateful for you and your innovation. Jeanne Mancini, president of the March for Life Education and Defense Fund, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
We continue this conversation with Sue Liebel, the state policy director for the Susan B. Anthony List. She joins us now via Skype from Indianapolis, Indiana. Sue, it's good to speak with you. The Susan B. Anthony List is a grassroots pro-life group, and I know a large part of your job is door-to-door canvassing. How has this pandemic affected your work?
Despite the fact that the coronavirus has stopped our canvassers from visiting voters at their doors, our team has quickly transitioned into live voter phone calls in key battleground states like Arizona, Florida, Michigan, North Carolina. And to date, they've made, since coronavirus started, they've made nearly 650,000 calls to voters. And that's on top of the 800,000 door-to-door visits that we made before this. So we're not slowing down. We're still as committed, actually more than ever, to re-electing pro-life President Donald Trump and also a pro-life majority in the U.S. Senate.
Sue, I know there is a lot of misinformation swirling around right now, including misinformation about COVID-19 and the health of pregnant women. What should our viewers know?
Well, it's true. The extreme pro-abortion Democrats are fear-mongering and pressuring women to have abortions and spreading lies about how the COVID-19 affects pregnant women. And Planned Parenthood and their allies are even using up our precious personal protective equipment and claiming that abortions are necessary. But, here's the truth. There is no evidence that pregnant women are at higher risk of contracting COVID-19. And pregnant women with the coronavirus are not likely to give that to their baby. Infant death by COVID-19 is very rare. So there are ways that pregnant women can protect themselves, much like you and I do, staying out of crowds, staying away from people who are sick, washing your hands. It's just not true. It's not true no matter what they say. We also need to remember, I'd like to share, if I may, we want to help pregnant mothers in your communities. Many of the pro-life pregnancy centers are putting up wish lists on Amazon.com for the things that they need right now. The pregnant women, need diapers and material assistance and help. And so look for your local center, and if they have a wish list on Amazon.com.
That's a great reminder, and I know the Susan B. Anthony List has a great website about the truth about the coronavirus at sba-list.org/coronavirus. Sue, how can pro-lifers advocate for pro-life laws and candidates in their own states right now amidst a pandemic?
Well, now more than ever, we need to engage our family and our friends to vote for President Donald Trump, the most pro-life president in history, come November. We need to be thinking about that now. He is in stark contrast. The contrast couldn't be greater between him and Joe Biden, who with the Democratic Party would let extremism, abortion run rampant. And if he wants to become president. So we can't allow that to happen. We need every single pro-life vote to get to the polls in November. And if you live in a battleground state, like I mentioned, Arizona, Florida, North Carolina, Michigan, and you want to get involved, you can join. People could join our field team and make those voter calls. We're looking for all the help we can get. Get involved. I can give you a website that people could go to if they, or an email if they want to find out more about it. That's jobs@sbalistfield.org. jobs@sbalistfield.org. Get involved. Join us.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for continuing to advance and move forward in the pro-life cause. Sue Liebel, State Policy Director with the Susan B. Anthony List.
Oh, thank you.
The Save Moms and Babies Act would prevent the FDA from approving new chemical abortion drugs, put an end to labeling changes for existing drugs, and ban abortionists from dispensing these drugs remotely. If made into law, this bill would stop the expansion of chemical abortions, which are on the rise today. This Save Moms and Babies Act is a common sense bill that would protect both women and unborn children. And that brings us to this week's call to action. Tell your senator to co-sign the Save Moms and Babies Act. Go to ProLifeWeekly.com to deliver your message straight to your senator. Once at our website, type in your basic information and we will tailor this message to your specific senator and send it straight to them. Again, chemical abortions are dangerous for mothers and they end the lives of unborn children. The Save Moms and Babies Act would help protect both. Tell your senator to co-sign this common sense bill by going to ProLifeWeekly.com. U.S. Catholic bishops are urging the FDA to create an ethical COVID-19 vaccine that does not use any old cell lines that were created from the cells of aborted babies. The 4 bishop chairmen of committees for the U.S. bishops sent a letter to the FDA in mid-April, writing in part, quote, "It is critically important that Americans have access to a vaccine that is produced ethically. No American should be forced to choose between being vaccinated against this potentially deadly virus and violating his or her conscience." Archbishop Joseph Naumann of Kansas City, Kansas, is the chairman of the U.S. Bishops' Committee on Pro-Life Activities. He signed this letter to the FDA and joins us now via Skype. First off, Your Excellency, a lot of Catholics may not be aware that coronavirus vaccine development could even have a connection to abortion. Can you walk us through what are the ethically problematic cell lines?
Yeah, so unfortunately, there's been a history in creating vaccines in some cases anyway, of using cell lines from aborted fetuses. And so some of the vaccines that are commonly used today have this ethical problem. We as a church, obviously, we see this as a moral issue that we don't want to do anything that in some way gives support for the idea of abortion. On the other hand, you know, I think in some cases where there are no other ethical choices and for public health reasons, Catholics may be forced to use these vaccines, even though we object to the way that they were developed. But the church says we have an obligation to object to that and to advocate for ethical vaccines to be developed. So with the coronavirus, we're in the process now of these vaccines being developed. So this is the moment for us to advocate, because there's no need to really use cell lines from aborted fetuses. There are other cell lines that can be used to develop these vaccines. And so that's why we think it's very important at this moment to let the voice not only of the church, but other concerned citizens to voice that we all want a vaccine. We realize that's important for our public health, but we also want a vaccine that has no ethical problems in the way it's developed.
That being said, what is your specific message to the FDA?
Well, we're encourage them to create incentives for the pharmaceutical companies that are creating these vaccines to use cell lines that are not implicated with abortion. And so I think there's an opportunity at this time, as we're in the development stages, for the FDA really to give strong guidance that we want an ethical, a vaccine that's been developed ethically. And so we're hoping the FDA will take seriously that recommendation and encouragement.
As you mentioned, we all want to see a cure for COVID-19. That's not even a question. But Your Excellency, can you speak to how we can't allow this high-stakes time to compromise our values or conscience?
Yeah, I think there's no reason for this vaccine to be developed using cell lines from aborted fetuses. So I think all we need really is for our pharmaceutical companies to realize that this is offensive to a large number of Americans, and give them the encouragement, give our government the encouragement to make sure these vaccines are not morally compromised in any way.
Absolutely. Your Excellency, our world has taken drastic measures to protect people, especially our vulnerable populations, from getting the coronavirus. As the chair of the U.S. Bishops Pro-Life Committee, do you think there could be a lesson in all of this when it comes to the importance of protecting human life?
Yeah, it's interesting because even some figures of public officials that don't support us on protecting the lives of the unborn, they've made statements in the midst of this crisis that every life is precious, every life is sacred. And as a culture and society, we're going through enormous lengths to try and protect the elderly and those that might be susceptible to the virus, where it's much more dangerous for them. So I think it's admirable that we as a culture are taking these steps to try to protect those that are most vulnerable to the virus. And I think hopefully that can translate into a similar concern for the lives of the unborn as well.
Absolutely. I hope so too. Well, thank you so much for your pro-life leadership and for joining us here. Archbishop Joseph Naumann, chairman of the U.S. Bishops Committee on Pro-Life Activities. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. God bless.
Coming up, she's a pro-life advocate not only for herself, but for others as well. We speak with Katie Shaw, a Catholic Indiana woman with Down syndrome, who is a force to be reckoned with. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Hadro. A pro-abortion group hosts an online fundraiser with celebrity guests to, quote, save abortion during the pandemic. That is this week's Speak Out segment. The group Abortion Access Front held an online event this week they called, quote, Operation Save Abortion. Organizers described it as an all-day, all-star telethon. Participants in the telethon included actresses Elizabeth Banks and Busy Phillips, along with pro-abortion writer Lindy West and comedian Margaret Cho. The funds will go to a, quote, clinic relief fund set up by the so-called Abortion Care Network to benefit abortion businesses. This current pandemic has left many people vulnerable, from those who are sick to the newly unemployed to those who are high risk for getting the virus. But abortion businesses are not among the vulnerable. In fact, they profit off of the vulnerable. They kill the vulnerable. This all-star abortion telethon is a slap in the face to people who are truly suffering. It exposes the abortion agenda of profit over people and is a devastating abuse of influence from these celebrities who are involved. Let's pray that the juxtaposition between the culture of life and the culture of death continues to make itself clear as pregnancy care centers and maternity homes step up even more to support women facing uncertainty during a crisis. A truly pro-woman, pro-life approach. For this week's Pro-Life Focus, we're spotlighting a woman who is an advocate not only for herself, but for a whole group of people in our population often targeted by the abortion lobby. Katie Shaw is an Indiana Catholic woman who has Down syndrome. She is on the board of Down Syndrome Indiana and regularly lobbies for pro-life bills that would prevent the discrimination of babies with Down syndrome in the womb. Tragically, babies prenatally diagnosed with Down syndrome are aborted at an exponentially high rate in the U.S. It's estimated to be at nearly 70%. Shaw sat down with Life Issues Institute President Brad Mattis for a powerful video on the truth about living with Down syndrome.
Even though babies, the most defenseless, have a disability or not, you should not just kill them because we have wonderful lives, and all lives should be about celebrating anybody and people with disabilities too.
Katie Shaw joins us now via Skype from Indianapolis, Indiana. Katie, thank you for being here. That was a beautiful interview you did with Life Issues Institute about life with Down syndrome. Can you share with us and our viewers, Katie, what is it truly like to live with Down syndrome? What do you want people to know?
That people with Down syndrome are just like everyone else. I play sports. I'm in a book club. I like hanging out with my friends and family. And I do the many marathons, and I volunteer at my parish in Down syndrome, Indiana.
Wow.
We have ups and downs like everyone. But I always say I have a wonderful life.
Yes, you have a wonderful life. You have an active life. Katie, you have lobbied for pro-life bills. You've even met with President Donald Trump in the White House. How do people respond when you share your witness, Katie?
I have been fortunate enough that most meetings or conventions I speak at, the audience is usually pro-life. When I speak to people who are not pro-life, when I speak to people who, I think that seeing and speaking with me, they may at least think about why being pro-life might be the right. And meeting President Trump was awesome because he understands every life is important. He is the most pro-life president ever, and he truly listened to me.
Katie, you are such a powerful speaker, and I know it can't always be easy to boldly speak the pro-life message. How do you lean on your Catholic faith when you speak and lobby for pro-life issues?
The main reason I became a national pro-life speaker is because of God calling me to tell everyone Psalm 139:14. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. My Catholic faith keeps me strong, and knowing God is behind me.
That is so inspiring. And Katie, finally, if there's a mom or dad watching who is expecting a baby with Down syndrome, what do you want to say to them?
I want them to know that their child is a gift from God and to cherish every moment with them. Their child is fearfully and wonderfully made too. And who knows what God has chosen them to be. Help your baby's life be wonderful, and your life will be wonderful.
Well, thank you for inspiring us, and thank you for joining us. Katie Shaw with Down Syndrome Indiana, thank you, and happy birthday week to you, Katie.
Thank you.
That does it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, coming to you from the Hadro home. We'd love to hear from you right now. Let's connect online. Find us on social media at EWTN Pro-Life. And you know you can always send us an email at prolifeweekly@ewtn.com. Until next week, remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.